Hello friends, my name is Basit and in this video I'm going to talk about IELTS Speaking Part 1 in detail. At the end of this video, I'm also going to share some crucial tips and tricks which could significantly boost up your score. So stick to this video right till the end. Before we start with today's topic though, I want to inform you that I have earlier made videos about IELTS Speaking, its structure and its assessment criteria. If you haven't watched that yet, I recommend you to watch that one first. I will be providing the links in the description box below. Now without any further ado, let's get started with today's video. IELTS Speaking module comprises of 3 parts, and today we are going to discuss part 1 of the speaking module, which is considered as easiest among all of the 3 parts, and that is primarily because of its introductory nature. Before the test actually starts, there are a couple of questions asked by the examiner which do not form the part of the assessment. Question number 1 is, what's your full name and how may I call you? You can respond to this question like this. My full name is Basit Maharaj and you can call me by my first name, that is Basit. Question number 2 is, could you please share your identity? You can answer this question like this. Of course sir, or definitely sir. Here you go. In case of speaking part 1, approximately 7 to 11 questions could be asked, and those questions are of introductory nature. That means they could be related to your home, work, study, accommodations, food, etc. And these questions are answered in approximately 2 to 3 sentences or more. That totally depends upon the question type. For example, some questions require more explanations while others require less. Now let's talk about the answer format of speaking part 1. Answer format is quite simple as far as speaking part 1 is concerned. You just have to answer your question and support your answer with the help of examples. I have observed that there are certain questions, or I can say majority of the questions in speaking part 1, which are based on agreeing and disagreeing. So in that case, every time we cannot use yes for agreeing and no for disagreeing. Rather, we can use synonyms for agreeing. For example, absolutely, certainly, definitely. And for disagreeing, we can use of course not, certainly not at all, etc. I will be answering some part 1 questions which have been taken from an official Cambridge guide for IELTS students. However, I want to make you clear that your answers can be completely different than mine. So, you don't need to memorize them. But they are certainly going to demonstrate the structure of the answer so that you will be gaining an idea of how to answer the question in your part 1. So with that being said, let's begin with the examples. The topic for our example questions is neighbors. Question number 1 is, how often do you see your neighbors? I meet my neighbors almost on the regular basis. For instance, whenever I go out or come back from office, I see a few of them. Apart from this, we usually catch up in social gatherings and parties. Question number 2 is, do you invite your neighbors to your home? Absolutely. I invite my neighbors whenever there is a function at my place. For example, on the last weekend only, I celebrated my daughter's birthday at my place and I invited all of my next door neighbors on that occasion. Next question is, do you think you're a good neighbor? Yes, I believe so, because I'm a considerate person. I always make sure that they are doing well and I'm always looking forward for their help. For example, quite recently, my neighbors went for their vacation for almost a fortnight, and in the meantime, I took good care of their accommodation as well as their pets. Has a neighbor ever helped you? Absolutely. They have always been supportive to me. For example, quite recently, a couple of months ago, when I met with an accident on my bike, my neighbor was the first one to show up at the hospital and I was completely delighted by his behavior. Now, as I said in the beginning of this video, I'm going to share some tips and tricks which could significantly boost up your score. Let's start with the tip number 1. Tip number 1 is, avoid using single sentence answers. For example, if you're asked, do you like coffee or tea? I like coffee. I love coffee very much. This will not be considered an appropriate answer. Instead, you can say, I prefer coffee to tea. I usually drink coffee in my breakfast. Apart from that, I drink coffee after the dinner, especially when I'm supposed to wake up till late hours. Tip number 2 is taking breaks if you're out of ideas. Sometimes in your IELTS test, you are out of ideas. Instantly, you're not able to generate ideas to answer the questions. In that case, you can buy time. You can buy time by saying the words, "This is an interesting question. Give me a moment for this." Or you can say, "Let me think over it." Or you can say, "Well, it was a tricky question. Give me a moment for this." Tip number 3 is ask to repeat the question. It's completely fine as far as IELTS speaking is concerned. You can ask for the repetition of the question. You can ask for a repetition of the question if you haven't understand the question quite well. And in that case, you can say, "I didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat the question, please?" Tip number 4 is don't worry about the interruptions. If examiner is going to interrupt you while you are answering the question, it's completely fine. This can happen. It doesn't reduce your score, so you don't need to worry about it. Tip number 5 is it's completely okay to say no or give negative answers, of course, with the proper explanations. For example, do you like reading books? You could say, "No, I'm not fond of books. I have never been into reading books since my childhood. I have always been told by my parents and my peers to read books, but unfortunately, I never picked up this habit." Tip number 6 is practice with persistence. By that I mean you need to practice speaking every day. It could be with your friends or with your family members, but you have to hit this each and every day. Let it be initially for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, then you can do regularly for 15 minutes or so. This regular repetition of speaking will make you a better speaker day by day. Point number 7 is don't worry too much about grammar and vocabulary while speaking. Trust me guys, if you have practiced completely and thoroughly, they are going to come out spontaneously. You don't have to focus on the grammar and vocabulary. If you're doing that, maybe you'll end up ruining your speaking test. So be calm and be confident. Last but not the least, practice reading a bit loudly. Whenever you are reading, it should be a little bit loud so that your own ears can hear it. In this way, you're mitigating the stammering part and you are increasing the fluency in your speech. So do it every day so that you are able to be a better speaker. This is the end of this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe, because in this way this content is going to reach more and more people. I will see you in the next video. Till then, keep smiling and keep practicing.